best part about life is, it's when you was a kid you didn't know what tax is. Now I guess it's what you make it. Pick it up and run, son, yeah. We all destined to do great things. We just gotta work hard to find out what it is. Man, I had a dream since I was a kid. Stop.
Alright, so I guess welcome to our first ever podcast. Now, we've never done a podcast before, but I think that might be okay with the amount of backstory and sort of back history that we've got with cameras. First of all, I might address the intro that you just heard then. That was I Got a Smile, or an extract of I Got a Smile by Zach Slater. He's a Melbourne artist and he's incredible. He's been on Triple J Unearthed, a few other radio stations as well. So he is a great artist and I think that everyone should go check him out. I might also address that Paige is the type of person to neglect the type of weather that we're going out into, and she'll wear shorts no matter where she goes. We play ice hockey as well and she still wears shorts to that, even though it's
comfy.
It's about 11 comfy. Or 12 degrees in every building that we go into. So, first of all, I might introduce ourselves. That's important.
That would help.
That's kind of important. I'm Tristan Clements, and this is
Paige Cameron.
And we have quite a different history in life. We've only met over the last 2.5 years.
2.5 years, yeah.
2.5 years. We've been together for the last 2 years.
Yep.
Tomorrow you turn 18, which is a big one.
Big 18.
How are you feeling for that?
Honestly, nothing changes. Nothing other than buying alcohol and being able to have cigarettes. Don't like either, so.
And you don't drink anyway, so that doesn't matter. So, yeah, awesome. So let me check what I've got written down, because we came very ill prepared.
Very. We're in the middle of nowhere.
Oh yeah, so that's the other thing that I want to address. Whoa, there's a bit of buzzing on this.
Oh no. It's because I got the good one.
Make sure you got it.
You have the sucky one.
So our idea for this podcast was it's a video podcast as well, because obviously we run a photo and video production company, so we're going to implement that wherever we can. Everybody does structured corporate style podcasts, so we're delving into this very densely populated market.
Very.
So we're jumping into this with our sort of history of videography and no history of radio or podcast sort of
or a good voice.
Or a good voice. Like I've got a lisp and that doesn't help me.
I can't speak English for the sight of me.
So we're in Dandenong Ranges today. I actually forget where we've parked. We just drove down the road and saw a nice spot. And this is the idea. We don't want to be inside a studio like everybody else is. We want to be in a nice sort of environment. Obviously, you can probably hear the sound of the water going behind us, the cars going up there, whatever. And it's not always going to be nice, but we're going to try. We're shooting this in 4K. I've actually forgotten to make it log, but that doesn't matter.
Nice one.
So it's not supposed to look amazing.
Video and photo company, and we forgot log. Nice.
Yes, like I said, we're very ill-prepared. So disregard that. We're going to go on to our next point, which is... Well,
okay.
I wrote down why are we on the floor and where we are, but we're not on the floor. I wanted to bring chairs. Paige did not.
And then I decided I didn't want to sit on the floor with shorts, so we're
especially
standing.
going to the Dandenong Ranges where it's usually wet.
Okay, but
I think my headphone's the one that buzzing.
Yeah, it's probably your headphones.
You can't hear it?
No, I can hear it.
Oh,
but I think it's your cord of your headphone. Like you said, ill prepared.
Well, yeah, we've just chucked together a couple of mics and headphones, and I mean those headphones. Oh no,
it's you.
It's me.
It's you. My mic's
You can't hear
sick. Yeah, no, I can hear it, but it's your mic.
It's possibly the cables, because I didn't pay for these cables.
Nice.
Did
you steal them?
No, I didn't steal them. I used to work for a rubbish removal company, but I'll get to that later on.
Are these from a dump?
These are not from a dump. So we've got, I mean, essentially they could be from a dump, but we got a massive shipment basically given to us because it was like all not damaged goods, but goods they couldn't sell. But I'm assuming it's now damaged goods. It's probably very horrible auxiliary cables.
Probably.
Anyway, so since
Sorry.
we've jumped over that topic, you're also wearing fluffy socks. I might address.
Yeah, no, I love these socks. I got gifted these 2 years ago, and I'm in love with them. I mean, I'm honestly surprised I have 2 of the normal pair. They're not one pink, one red.
Paige isn't the type to even wear socks on a daily basis, so
I couldn't care less.
she goes commando.
What? Commander socks. I do wear underwear.
Barefoot all the time in her shoes.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean,
Thanks for
and
adding me.
they're also hand-me-down shoes, which were
Yep.
hand-me-downs to me
Yep.
by my old friend, and then I gave them to you. And the laces are torn, they're
Yep.
ripped apart.
I've tied them twice. I mean, they fit on my feet. Yeah.
Which is another great thing to add. We've realized, even after 3D scanning our feet, that we have identical feet. So 4.5 in skates.
When
That's
you
all we
bring
know.
skates. 4.5, same widthness, like width. Yeah, see, English not my thing.
You have an extra toe with that. I'm kidding.
Extra what?
I'm kidding.
Nice. No, my right foot's bigger. Your left foot's bigger. That's the only difference.
Okay, so the next point, and again, disregard the static. I will fix that in the future. The next point would be, what do we do? So I already briefly mentioned that we run a photo and video production company.
That we do.
We mainly specialize in weddings, but my history in videography comes from dance and performance because I used to be a dance teacher.
Ballet boy.
But Paige has jumped into it kind of because she came across a little bit of money and she went, this is kind of what I want to do. I don't want to spend it on, party, alcohol, going out, doing what other teenagers should do.
McDonald's. It was very tempting. Very tempting to buy McDonald's, but...
So very, very roughly inspired by me, she bought a camera or 2 and she went, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Sort of just the same way I did. So,
but more successful, must admit.
Oh wow! So we're gonna jump back into our backstory a little bit. I started off when I was about 15.
15, yep.
15. I had a girlfriend at the time in year 8, and her dad ran, as I mentioned before, the rubbish removal company. And essentially it was just like $50 a week for me. I'd go with him, I'd jump in his truck, and obviously fully branded truck. It wasn't just some random truck.
Just jumped in a van,
And we'd be hired to either drop trailers off at people's places, or we'd go and pick up people's rubbish. And that was great. Like it was $50 a week, and as a 15-year-old kid, that wasn't like a massive amount of money, but it also wasn't a shit amount of money. It was good. I could spend that $50 a week on, more camera gear, or I could spend it on video games or something like that. I don't drink either, so I wasn't a massive party kid or anything like that either. So yeah, I spent it on, I built up, and I spent it on a 700D, a Canon 700D. But it was great. He was a great guy, the guy that I worked for. He let me essentially work off some gear that I bought. So he'd give me the money for the gear, and at the time the camera was only like $1,100. So he'd give me that money, and he'd say, this is how many weeks you have to work for me, or how many shifts you have to work for me before you pay it off. And I did it. So I did that, and I also bought a Rode NTG2, which is a boom operated microphone. And they were great. They were really good startups. And that sent me on my track of video production or photo production. I wanted to be a videographer initially, but over the time of learning the camera, here comes the buzzing. Over the time of learning the camera, I found it was much easier to be a photographer straight away.
The still frame.
The one frame that you have to work with. You don't have to worry about changing lighting all the time, or audio, or
audio,
or log.
look at us. We're not good at that part.
all you need to do is know how to shoot manual, raw. And that's it. With video, you have to learn how to, like, what's all eye or what's interlaced imaging, frame rates, everything like that. You have to learn the backstory and why you use them and all that sort of stuff. And once you understand those fundamentals, then you can work up. But I was initially a photographer. I wanted to be a videographer. Before that, I even wanted to be an audio engineer. So all of them sort of helped each other. And before, way before any of this, I used to play inline hockey as a kid. I started when I was 7, and I played all the way up until 2013. I did a few things after that, but I played really competitively all the way up until 2013. I went to New Zealand to compete against New Zealand in the Oceania Championships, and I also went to the Junior Olympics in Los Angeles for the Amateur Athletes Union over there. So needless to say, I was an addicted kid for hockey, which looped around entirely to now.
Yeah, thanks to me.
Thanks to you. But one of the guys that I worked with, one of the guys that I played hockey with, Nico French, he runs Nico French Media. Go check him out. He's insane for car photography.
Very insane.
He's actually been featured on Top Gear twice now, I believe.
Yeah, twice now.
One for, I think, a BMW M3 competition or something like that. And I forget what the other one was for. I think it was just a range of
Stuff
different
doing.
different luxury cars, like parked outside YTG.
Oh yeah, near the mural they have.
Yeah, near the F1 mural, or near the sort of historical heritage mural, which is nice. It's an amazing mural. I don't actually know who painted it, but if I did, I'd note it down in the show notes or whatever we have going on. But anyway, Nico French, he kind of, like, we were great friends growing up. He is a few years older than me. And he was always into cars. He went to New York with his dad and checked out all the car shows over there. And they ended up buying a Lotus Elise. And he started working at a company called Lorbeck Luxury Cars. Now, amazing company. The boss, questionable, but I won't get into that. It was a great environment to work in when you do get into those cars. So I wasn't a fan of cars at all. I was driving a Mitsubishi Lancer, and before that I was driving a Mazda 3. So not special cars. And he goes, "Do you want a job at Lorbeck Luxury Cars?" And at that point I was like, what is this? Like, what is Lorbeck Luxury Cars? I know it's a car dealership, but like I didn't fully understand what it was. And I used to see it as like not liking a food for the first time. Like, for example, you look at anchovies, raw anchovies, and I would myself would go, how do people like this? How do people enjoy eating
disgusting
raw anchovies?
It's like pineapple on a pizza.
But if you get into it, you get addicted to it, and you start to understand it and know how and everything like that. So I started working at this company. I started really enjoying cars, and I ended up buying a Toyota 86, almost original 2013 Toyota 86 for $14,500, which is a bargain because it was probably worth about $23,000 for what it was.
If not now.
The reason that I got it so cheap is because maybe there was a ding in the door, and that was it. But anyway, I worked there for a year and a half. And I enjoyed it. I started building up my corporate experience in videography, and it was awesome. And then I finally quit that place after a year and a half because of I'd say politics. Because of politics. It did not
work with your lifestyle.
Let's just say that. It was not a healthy environment after a long period of time. Easy work, 45 hours a week. It wasn't great pay if you put it in like a broad perspective, but for a 21-year-old kid just getting into the industry of car photography or videography, I was able to basically build up an experience of how to deal with a certain level of people, a certain lifestyle, like blue collar sort.
Very blue collar, very fancy.
So it was alright. Like, it was a good experience. I'm definitely glad that I did it because I wouldn't be where I am without it.
You wouldn't know me either.
As I said, I was 21. It allowed me to move out for the very very first time. So I grew up in the southeast, where we live now. We moved out to Point Cook for a year. A year. You moved in with me, even though that was subletting. That was illegal. But we won't tell anybody that.
No one knows.
No one knows, because no one's listening to this podcast, are they? It's our very first podcast, so we're not expecting to have an audience.
That's fine though. It's just test.
Yeah. And I quit that place. I went back to the hobbyist aquarium that I now work at. And I worked there. This buzzing is getting bad. I worked there for about
2 years.
2 years before I worked at the luxury car dealership. Anyway, I went back to that company. And it's just myself and the boss, and we're essentially running the place to a point where it's economical for the future. We're selling the right things. We're just basically building it up to be a future business, something that doesn't die in the past. And that's great. So that's my life now. I play ice hockey with Paige.
Beer league, but yes.
Beer league ice hockey.
That we'll be going to tonight.
And essentially that is a very, very broad roundup of my life and what I've done. Obviously there's more that I'll delve into later on during our other episodes and podcasts and things like that, when this machine is not buzzing. So I guess we'll get on to your... It quite possibly could be my phone next to the cord.
I think it
the
might
radio
be.
frequencies.
Yeah, it might be.
See? Videography history. We understand that.
Totally. We should have picked that up.
More high-end cords have like copper wiring that
Yeah.
sort of avoid that. So we'll see if that is avoided now, because it was touching the wire essentially.
Yeah, it was in your pocket.
So let's get on to you. So you've got a very, very, very different history to me.
Very.
We'll start like obviously where you grew up, things like that, and how you eventually then finally got into hockey.
Yeah. I mean, there's not too much to me. I'm a normal Aussie kid, I guess you'd say. Grew up in Sydney. I like saying that I lived in Liverpool, which sounds cool. Sounds like it's England, but it's really not. If you know Liverpool and Sydney, you don't want to live there.
It's the Aussie ghetto.
It really it's the Collingwood of Sydney. Sorry, it's very cold out here. Grew there till I was, I think, 9. Got on a plane, moved to Melbourne with my family. Family wasn't the greatest family, so me and my mum left. And then we moved around Australia as much as we wanted to. Went to Queensland next, South Australia. Had a quick trip at WA for a week before we moved to Sydney again to live with family. Then family again just did not work out. Moved back to Melbourne, where I think I was 14, 15. My mother was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic lung cancer, which, if you don't know what that means, it's end, pretty much. When I was 15, she wanted to move back to family, see all them, to pretty much lay her bearings, end there. So we moved back to New South Wales. She didn't like it. No shit. I think the 2 times that it already didn't work in
sort
life.
of like a reoccurring thing that you should have been aware of.
Yeah, definitely should have been aware of. So we moved back, which was funny because we moved all of our life there, everything, including beds, and then had to drive it all back. Lived in Melbourne. I think that was around start of 2020. That's when I found hockey. So I went skating with a couple of friends in high school. Thought it was something fun. Didn't even know ice skating existed. Funnily enough, I hit on a guy that was 25.
I can name exactly who that is.
No. Different guy. Different guy.
Guy.
This is someone from New South Wales.
I thought you was talking about Ricky Good.
Ricky Good. I did not hit on him.
He's a hottie. He is a good-looking guy. Lucy's got him now. Oh, Lucy had him.
I think so, yeah.
I'm not sure on that.
That's their personal life.
But anyway, he was a good-looking guy. So
didn't hit on him. So, hit on that guy when I was 15, and then a week later we went back skating. Thought it would be a good idea to try it one more time. You know, never dated anyone in my life. Thought it would be fun to. I never thought I'd go ice skating again. Tried it one more time. Found this guy. was a good guy. Brought me into hockey. Didn't end up working. They moved away and just things didn't work. But because they brought me into hockey, I just found this outlet, especially with my mother, with everything she was going on with school as well, like getting through high school.
We'll put it into perspective as well. You didn't live in the greatest area either. You lived in a housing commission, which meant that
very
you
bad.
and because like your background is Indigenous, you got a few more perks, which is great.
Very nice. Nice.
But it's just a good perspective to see that she wasn't able to buy her gear, or you weren't able to buy your gear all at the same time.
No, I had to go one-on-one first skates, saved up 3 weeks of working my ass off at different jobs.
But you also got
mum.
like hand-me-down gear essentially from players that stopped playing as well. But yeah, like you had to build up gear over time. You weren't able to just splurge it out all at once, and which meant that you had to keep coming back. It meant that you had to show your dedication to the sport initially.
Yeah, and especially with season fees, like, you know, a mother that, you know, had to spend so much money on medical bills and everything that she had to splurge money on some, like, tosser of a kid that wanted to play ice hockey in Australia, which it's not a sport that Australians really are good at, I'm going to admit.
Hence as to why it is so damn expensive here.
It is very expensive, yes.
Just like another idea is our gloves are probably about $350, $400 for each pair. Our helmet's $400 for concussion-proof helmets. Our skates are another $500-$600. Our the shoulder pads are $250. Our pants are $300. It's not cheap.
He's saying this as with high-end gear. I've got low gear.
And like our sticks aren't cheap either, and we break them very often because we play at she plays at a highly competitive level. I do play at a highly competitive level, but I still hack my stick a lot. I still get it into the play, and they snap a lot, banging on the boards and everything.
Little feisty one, this one is.
It's just a tool, though. It's the same way we treat
our cameras.
Our camera gear. Like, obviously, the R3 that we're shooting with now, we wouldn't throw it around. But my 1DX Mark II, like, I'm happy to drop it. I'm happy to, like, throw it to someone if they need it.
Exactly, yeah.
We don't, like, it is money, but it makes us money back. And without treating it like a tool, you wouldn't get the shots that you need.
No, exactly. I think I was speaking about... Honestly, I have no clue what I was speaking about anymore.
Sorry.
Yeah, you went into a tangent. Yeah, no, living in Collingwood, trying to earn money as I go to come back to hockey. Started a intro class, got kicked out of the intro class because I could skate, which was really... It felt nice, I must admit. Went through that, met this little being right here, public skating. And
what was I doing? I was by myself.
You were just skating around. I think you were with a friend. And then every week we'd come back. We'd be at the same rink, same time every time. And then eventually we added each other on Instagram.
And then she unfollowed me.
Yeah, I did.
You unfollowed me twice.
Yeah.
And we were together, and you unfollowed me again.
I must admit, I didn't do it intentionally. I did it because, teenagers and
you're counting your follower to following ratio.
Just a little bit. I don't care anymore, but I used to care a lot about Instagram and about what people thought about me. As you can see, not anymore. Going into hockey and I skate 6 times a week most weeks, meaning I'm sweating my ass off every day of the week. Coming home, my hair is a mess, wearing baggy clothes because I don't care. And as soon as you finish hockey and you don't have a shower there and you wear the same jumper you came in with, you can't wear that jumper again.
No.
You have to wash it.
They stink
it stinks so
like shit.
bad.
They stink like shit. So, I mean, and that's another thing. Like, a lot of the time, we want to shower there, but sometimes we can't because, for example, like the Melbourne Ice men's, after our sessions, they would go in and they'd start training. And those rooms are really the only rooms with nice showers. The other ones, you share showers, and they might have a curtain on them. Usually they don't.
And as a girl, it's not a fun thing.
A girl in a men's sport. Like, you play with men, and
I get
they
dressed
they
in the
just
same
they just
room.
let it out. They just let it dangle, and they don't
Oh,
care.
Oh, the amount of times I've walked into a change room and had to just kind of act like I didn't see
I give a good
anything.
heads up. I'm like, you put
Yeah,
your head down,
yeah.
like don't look around, and
When
you know
don't,
exactly what I
though,
mean.
Oh, it's so gross. I
Yeah.
must admit. But yeah, no. Started hockey, met you. We started doing hockey together. Mid 2020, June-ish. So about 2 years from here, my mother passed away. It's gonna
Almost
happen.
exactly. It's just over 2 years.
Yeah. So funny thing, we got a dog.
We bought a very, very beautiful dog.
Very beautiful, Swiss Shepherd. With the money I got from my mother, from her passing, which is really a coincidence because the day our dog was born was the day my mother passed. So to be able to get that
We
dog,
didn't actually know that until after
Yeah.
we bought her as well. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like we bought her for that fact. We found her. Well, we moved in together. We found her on Gumtree, I think it was.
No, some pup online
Some
kind
website.
of breedery thing. Yeah.
And she's a purebred pedigree dog. Her parents were show parents.
She was the runt, which is the reason we got her. Because every dog I've ever had will be a runt. It will always be that way. I always feel just too bad. No one wants
She was
them.
meant to be $4,000. You talked to the guy, talked to the lady down to $3,500.
3.5, yep.
Which was awesome. We went and picked her up, and she was tiny.
During COVID.
And then a week and a half, 2 weeks later, we looked at her papers, and we're like, oh shit, she was born
Yeah.
on that date.
Which is a big date. Like now that date is no longer a sad thing. It's a happy thing.
So now we make the joke every now and then. Your mother's watching over us.
Oh,
like
yeah, it's a bit of a weird one.
whenever our dogs. So our dog was named after a ice hockey player. She's a Swiss Shepherd, but I named her after a Swedish ice hockey player without actually, putting two and two together. That they're not the same fucking place.
But he named it a very hard name to say.
I named her Elias after Elias Peterson.
And I can't say that word.
So because she's a Swiss Shepherd, Paige just started calling her Bolt. So if you guys have ever seen the movie or the child's animation Bolt, she's that dog. So yeah, that's great. We just call her Bolt now, and like my grandma loves her. Essentially, they're best friends.
Yeah,
So
family dog now.
My
very
grandma
much.
never was a shepherd person, especially German shepherds, because she was chased by one back in the day.
Yeah.
But we were lucky that she likes Bolt. So
I think it's her personality. We
she's
call her
dumb.
the upside down dog because she is always on her back. Always.
All fours straight up.
Look at me. Look
Very
dog,
rarely. Every now and then she does cover up with her tail. She wraps it around her belly, but usually it's just all up in the air, all open, all for the show.
Have a look at the toy I ruined this time.
Yeah, she's demolisher.
I think we have 50 toys in this house, and all of them don't have a head. She is that girl that
and tennis balls. She strips like the outside of tennis balls off and then opens them up. She's great. I mentioned this the other day. She's very good at reverse engineering things.
Yeah. Yes, she is.
So if you ever wanted to learn how to build a tennis ball, just let her rip it apart and then you can find out.
What's inside a
What's
cricket ball.
inside? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that YouTube. Yeah. I'll make a whole YouTube channel about how she can rip up more toys.
So I guess I'll use your mum passing as a segue. Again, because you inherited some money, you were able to buy some gear. And I ran a company ever since 2016 called House of Royalty, and then I eventually rebranded to Tristan Clements Photography and Videography, being more self-explanatory. And now we've jumped together and we call it On Set Moments.
It was going to be action on set, but then we found out...
It was also taken.
Yes. No. It wasn't taken in Australia. It was taken in the United Kingdoms, which means when you look it up, it's not ours. But then, we made the dumb decision to be on-set moments, which is a very big thing people look up to find on-set moments.
Yeah, like behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's also good because it's like on set, you understand what on set means. It's either a production, like a dance production or a video production that you think of immediately. But it's also moments. So when we do weddings, we can use it as a great pun. We're here to capture your moment and just brand the word moment everywhere. So I think it's a really good marketing ploy that we've done that as well without actually initially planning it. But yeah, basically, so we joined up businesses. She made one that was, what was it?
Marie.p.photography.
Marie.p.photography, because your name is Paige Norelle Marie Melissa Cameron.
Yeah.
She didn't want to be known as Paige.
Identity.
She didn't want to be known as her first name because she didn't want people, like her siblings or friends, knowing.
Yeah, pretty much. I didn't want anyone. So anyone that I know, thanks for listening. This is embarrassing enough. Yeah. Well, I used to be really embarrassed about learning photography and everything like that, because obviously you get to the stage where, like, I think I'm good enough, but everyone else around me is not going to think that, and I didn't want all the people I know to go, look how amateur they are, or, you know, they think they're better than they are, things like this. So I waited until the point where I felt comfortable about my skills and what I knew, and at this point, like, I never will. I don't think I ever will feel as comfortable as, I don't know, Hollywood, you know, production companies. It's just, you know, I didn't study it.
Yeah, I didn't go to uni for video or television or anything.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to JMC, but then found out that their diplomas and things like that don't carry over internationally. They're only a national sort of recognized diploma. Whereas yours, like, we would probably go with RMIT or, what's the other one?
What's it called?
No, it doesn't matter. We'd probably go with something that's more high ranked than JMC, and we would be recognized internationally. We'd be able to work on news production companies and things like that as well.
But in the same retrospect, like, I don't want to do that stuff. I don't want to be on a news crew. I don't want to be, I mean, I'd love to be on set for productions, but not a movie production, I would say. I'd want to be on commercial production, something where you get to use your knowledge more than just, this is what you have to do.
That's a great thing about our industry. We don't have to, like, a lot of it, some people will look at diplomas, especially if you're working in news production, because you got to understand the industry. Where you're working on weddings and things like that, it's all reputation and
how good you really are.
It's portfolio based. People don't look at you and go, hey, I want you to film my wedding because you've got a diploma at RMIT.
Exactly.
Some people would, but you don't make money that way. You make money from showing a history of great wedding films.
Exactly. And I must admit, none of the people that take us on for weddings know that really I'm a 17-year-old. Or
no, they have no idea.
I was a 16-year-old when I was doing it as well. Because once you know what you're doing and you get mature enough about it, I mean, I said it to a couple of the singers we were talking to on a table, and they're like, what the hell? Like, you're really 17.
Once you show the ability of a professional, you don't need to then show your worth by being a age-appropriate person.
It's really the great thing about, like, cameras. Like, you can go and get a really tossery camera. They're not, you know, the person makes the camera, not the camera kind of thing. But, I mean, I know a kid in Queensland that's probably doing better than us with a lower-end camera just because they're pushing. And that's the thing with our part in business. You just got to push through it. Push through the people that say you're not good enough. And
we also have a different price range. We have a entirely different clientele that we're aiming for. Our normal clientele or client base would be about $3,500-4,000 for a job, and that's eight hours of filming plus editing.
A lot more hours of editing. Yeah.
And that's just two of us. That's setting up a few cameras, audio, and capturing the entire wedding and putting it together.
Yeah.
We've worked out our worth to be about $3,500 to $4,500, depending on if we get a photographer on board as well. And that's great. Like, if you as you said before, like, in retrospect, it's not that much money. If you add up all the amount of hours that we've worked on it, and our like hourly rate is about $100, but we work.
That's both of us. That's
so $50 an hour each, and we work with the clients. With their budget too, depending on, like, if it's reasonable or anything like that.
Yeah.
We are a very sort of accessible company.
Yeah, well, I guess, like, coming from me, I didn't have a lot of money growing up, and I mean, we're not going to have a lot of money when it comes around to weddings, you know, if we get married.
Yep.
So to understand that as well, I always want to give someone something. So, like, if, you know, people can't afford $3,500, but I can go and do it myself without him, and he can help edit or things like that. I always, yeah, pretty much. I always push to try to help out every client and make them as happy as they can be. Especially, like, you know, you don't need a 50-minute video. You could have a 10-minute video, and that can cut the price down as well.
Yeah, right. And I mean, you're also, you're also working with people who are getting married, so they're already initially stressed, and they're already spending so much money. And yes, we don't want to cheap out on a videographer or a photographer. We want to get quality, and that's great. Like, I respect the clients that know that know the worth of our art. But at the same time, we don't want to be a corporate company. We don't want to approach it and piss every client off because we're going, you need to do this by this time, you need to hit this criteria, these dot points, everything like that. We need our deposit, we do the job, we have a deadline, and we have a payment. And if they don't pay it by a certain amount of time, obviously we follow that up. But that's how it goes. And that's, like, we're chill about it. We're like, oh yeah, cool. Let us know if you can't pay it right away. We'll work something out with you. Maybe a payment plan, maybe pay it, a month later or whatever. But we work with our clients. We're not a massive company that will, push it, take you to court. Because that's not what you want when you're getting married.
Not at all.
I think our camera cut out as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what we're probably going to do then is, I'm guessing it died because you're shooting 4K.
Probably didn't die. So if you wanna like further ramble on, I might run down to the camera and just chuck another card in there. Have fun listening to Paige for about 30 to 40 seconds while I fix this issue. Here we go.
So yeah, no, I have no clue what to talk about. This is not my forte. My forte is, well, it's not really my forte either, is hitting a puck around and trying not to hit people because, women aren't allowed to use contact anymore. Well, it's not really been a thing. Hopefully one day it will be. I guess I'll just go back to what I was talking about with, my history going into photography. I was lucky enough to meet Tristan, and to be able to share some of his knowledge. I had a camera when I was younger as well, around 11, 12. And it was, one of those low-end cameras. I got it from a cash converters. If you're from Australia, you know what that is. Just, pawn shop pretty much. And I got one of them. I enjoyed it. And then, obviously, inheriting money, I got to have another one. So I bought a low-end cinema camera, a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. It's not the best, but it's also an Australian brand, and we both really loved it. And I bought the R5. I bought it as soon as it came out. I pre-ordered it. I got the last one in Australia when they went through Ted's cameras. So everyone had to wait about 9 months. I got mine straight away, pretty much. I think I maybe waited a month when I ordered it. And yeah, going into being able to have that camera, those cameras really. I bought a lens, bought everything I needed. Neglected on memory cards. Was very smart.
I'm back. She didn't fully understand how much memory our cameras would chew, and it also depends on bitrate. A lot of the older cameras, they shoot maybe 8, 10 bit. Our cameras, they shoot 10, 12, or 14 bit. So they're very, very high.
Mine's 14. It's very high.
Yeah, so I may actually have to run back to the camera and just make sure that I've pressed record.
Did you not press record?
No, I'm pretty sure I did, but I didn't flip the screen back, so I can't see.
Oh my God. So yes, we run a video company, and we neglect to look at our cameras because we so smart. Yeah, he's running away laughing. Bought a camera, all that, have fun. I was lucky enough, obviously, like I said, to have Tristan. He made this thing called a manual. A fun little manual of all the things that he learnt while, doing his little business, little things.
Yeah, and not only that, like I did study SLR photography in high school, and it was working with, obviously, single lens reflex, but it was working with film.
Push that film.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm so glad that I did that because you have to learn how to shoot manual. You have to learn what a Super 35 sensor is. First of all, or a 35mm sensor as well. You had to learn how to shoot for light. Nowadays, with our digital cameras, we shoot for the highlights, and we can bring back the shadows. With film, you had to shoot for the shadows, bring back the highlights. It worked a little bit differently. And it's awesome. So you have to learn everything. So you'll work with light meters, even though I didn't. I usually just shot auto shutter speed, and when I did that, it allowed me to not waste money on prints. We could then put it into a bag, put it into the barrel, and I had to learn how to roll up the wheel. I've got all of this material at home as well, which we just don't use because it's so damn expensive.
It's very expensive.
And once it's out of the bag, once you've got it in the tub, you then take it to the dark room, and you put, obviously you got your safety lights on, your red lights, then you put it through the chemical process that develops the film. And then after doing that, you have to let it sit. Then you then you put the film in the enlarger and put a piece of photo paper under the enlarger, and then you can develop it, or expose it, as you would say, onto the piece of photo paper. And then you put that piece of photo paper through another chemical process that then develops it and pretty much permanently prints it onto, not prints, but permanently scars it into that paper. And without doing all of that, I wouldn't know any way on how to use a digital camera, because all of the digital aspects are basically, their ancestors are the analog version of everything. You've got f-stop, which used to be called something else as well. You've got ISO, again, used to be called something else. And then, you had to learn how to use all of that. And coming over to digital, I think I did shoot auto for 1 or 2 days, then switched straight over to manual. And right at the start, I actually didn't understand how to get that depth of field. I thought it was all in the lens. So I went, I had the
24?
18 to 135 or something kit lens.
Yeah.
With my Canon 700D. And I would go, why aren't I getting that true depth of field? Why don't my photos look like somebody else's photos? And then I went out and bought a pancake lens. It was a nifty 50. It was the smallest lens I've ever seen, apart from the Helios lenses or anything like that. It was the smallest lens I've ever put on my camera, and that gave me great depth of field. It was, I believe it was 1.2 or 1.4 aperture. Yeah. Whereas my kit lens, it was f3.5 and up, and it went up the further you zoomed out, which sucked. We have got somebody coming into the car park, so hopefully they don't come over here.
I also think that we should probably segment way into finishing up because the camera...
Yeah, the car was full, so it was 35 minutes. So we've been talking for over 35 minutes, which is awesome. We've been able to successfully run through our first
let's be honest.
podcast.
You've been talking for 35 minutes. No,
I'm
kidding. No, I applaud us for being able to go that long. Honestly, I thought I was going to be able to do this for 10 minutes without cracking up laughing.
Yeah. I must say it's much better wearing the headphones.
It is a lot.
I took the headphones off before and I heard you talking and I'm like, this sounds completely different.
Thanks. Sound bit weird. But yeah, honestly, this feels nice. It feels nice to be able to talk.
And everything that we've basically run through today, we will further delve into in our future podcasts and episodes as well.
It's, what we want to call this. We've been rambling our brains, both coming up with ideas. Mine was Anywhere Podcast, because obviously we're anywhere. But then Tristan came up with this little funky idea as we were making the account of Cameras, Crap and Conversation.
Cameras, Crap and Conversation. So thank you for listening to our first episode ever of Cameras, Crap and Conversation with Tristan and Paige. Yeah. We are out in the Dandenong Ranges and it is actually a nice day. We'll probably go for a little wander because it is your birthday tomorrow.
Yay.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
And so Cameras, Crap and Conversation. Remember it. We'll have it on Spotify. You'll probably be listening to it on Spotify if you're not viewing it on Facebook or YouTube or anything like that as well.
And we'll be back.
We will be back probably, what do we want to do, weekly?
I do not want to do weekly, but we'll end up doing weekly.
We'll probably do multiple a day and have one release weekly.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Because it's actually been really easy to talk.
Yes.
And depending on how we go, we might even decide to do another one today. Probably not. Our card can't handle that.
No.
But yeah, so thank you for listening to our first ever episode of Cameras, Crap and Conversation. We will probably have another one out next week for you. And yeah, until then, enjoy, have fun, don't get too drunk if you're in Australia, if you're anywhere else in the world.
It's Tuesday.
Oh, Australians.
Yes, that's fair.
If you're anywhere else in the world listening to us, thank you so much.
It's 4th of July. So
4th of July.
drink.
So yes,
Please drink.
drink safely. Drive safely. Don't drink and drive over the limit. All right, guys. So enjoy and thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah,
Or you'll listen to us next week.
See ya.
Bye.
The best part about life is, it's when you was a kid you didn't know what tax is. Now I guess it's what you make it. Pick it up and run, son, yeah. We all destined to do great things. We just gotta work hard to find out what it is. Man, I had a dream since I was a kid. Stop.
Crab late and this.
And let's dance for a minute. Hey.
I cannot dance.